Biden is holding a solo press conference today to conclude the NATO summit in Washington, D.C. This will be his first since September, also one of his biggest public tests, since last month's unsteady debate performance caused alarm among Democrats on Capitol Hill and raised questions about whether he should be the party's 2024 presidential nominee. CBS's Natalie Brand has more.
President Biden has back-to-back meetings with foreign allies as the 75th anniversary NATO summit concludes today in Washington, D.C. Tonight, his first solo press conference since last November will be scrutinized amid growing calls from Capitol Hill to now Hollywood for him to bow out of the presidential race. Vermont's Peter Welch became the first Democratic senator to call on the president to withdraw. Others have signaled they're worried about November.
I've talked to people across Ohio. They have legitimate questions about whether the president should continue his campaign.
3 top Biden advisors are heading to the Hill today to try and reassure Senate Democrats. And CBS News has learned that House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries plans to convey the concerns of his members directly to the president.
We're continuing to have conversations with each other, and those have been candid, comprehensive, and clear-eyed.
Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi warned Wednesday that time is running short.
The decision is the president's.
2 senior Democrats also tell CBS News that there's concern donations could dry up. But despite the uncertainty, the president and his closest allies say he remains committed to staying in the race, arguing he's the best shot at beating former President Trump. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Washington.
9 House Democrats are now calling on the president to withdraw, with the additions of Representative Earl Blumenauer of Oregon and Representative Pat Ryan of New York.